Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to show you the best art creatures for the centre, since ASA is getting the centre very soon, so let's get straight into it. First up, we have got the Baselo, and the reason why this creature is here is there is so much of an expanse of underwater stuff on the centre. I just feel like it's necessary to have one of these creatures. You can just take them around everywhere and explore the oceans. Yes, a Mosa and a Megalodon will be quite useful as well, same for the Ichthyosaurus. The Basilosaurus is just the most well-rounded one for doing anything really, and it is immune to electric eels and jellyfish, which is a huge benefit to the general player. So I really do think that does play huge benefits when talking about a creature like this and what its use is going to be for on the centre, because it's probably mainly going to be exploration reasons why you're going to want to have one of these things on the center. And obviously there are loads of resources which you get from under the water as well, which is where you're going to use one of these creatures. So in my opinion, this is the ideal one for the center. Next up, we have got the Aloe, and I'm going to kind of put the Carno here as well, because I do think that's better in my just general opinion for this list. But I'm going with more of what the community thinks, because I'm a bit freakishly weird with my Aloe addiction, and not Aloe addiction, Carno addiction. And with the Aloe, this creature deals the bleed ability. It does come in packs as well, so you get the pack buff too, and they're pretty fast and they will do hefty damage to the boss, I should say, on the center. It's you fight in one arena, but you've got the Broodmother and the Megapithecus to fight, and this will do pretty well for both of them. There is a better creature for the Broodmother, which is coming up later on the list, much higher on the list, as it really is so OP against them. But you know, against the Megapithecus, it's just going to be so easy to use one of these things. And for the Broodmother as well, it's just, you know, there's another creature which has quite a huge advantage against the Broodmother, which makes it better for facing it, and it's pretty decent at facing the Megapithecus as well. You're not really going to have any issues there. The Aloe is also just going to be pretty great as a general carnivore around the map as well. Not all of these creatures have to be boss related on the list, although that does help you complete the map, and that is quite useful. These creatures are just great for any general harvesting task of meat and hide. They're also just great combat creatures for any combat that you need to get done. And obviously, if you want even more power behind that, you can always bring them out in packs, and you're going to have an even better time. Next up, we have got the Spino, and this is definitely a very great underwater creature to have on the center, but it also does play a role as an absolute beast against the Megapithecus, and also just a general great carnivore for all of those things that I talked about the Aloe for. But personally, I just think the Spino is a better option and a better creature for the center, because you can explore a lot more of the terrain with it, and also on top of that, it just generally does more damage and is more powerful than the Aloe. And the mobility is definitely there as well still with this creature, because it can turn 360 on the spot, can stand up on its hind legs, and it does have the hydration buff as well for even more damage. Like, since that TLC came out, this thing is so buffed. The only thing it doesn't really have is the bleed ability and obviously the pack buff, but still they really do pack a punch in terms of damage. And the exploration really makes these creatures like almost seemingly endless in a way. Like, there's so many uses, the endless amount of uses, I probably should have said, for the Spino on the center. They really work well with the map, and just most maps like the center that you'll find on Ark, so that's why I've put them on the list. In at number 7, we have got the UT, and this creature is here for boss reasons. Like, it's just going to make those boss fights so much easier, and also just as a general carnivore, the UT is really nice, but it is mainly here for that boss ability of where, you know, you can buff your creatures. It really does give you a huge edge. I was going to put the Daedon on this as well, but I didn't really feel like it was necessary in a way, especially for the center. You don't really need the Daedon that much. Obviously it will help, and you'll be able to heal up your creatures more with that, but with the UT, it really just plays such a huge role in having a successful boss fight. Like, you just really want one of these creatures. Obviously I'm not going to chuck it way up high on the list, because you're not actually using this to kill the bosses, and it definitely is possible without one. It's just, it really gives you just such a huge advantage. It makes sense pretty much in a way, like, necessary to do it in a sort of way, sort of sense. I know it isn't, but you know, I find it's necessary these days. Like, the success of having a UT to not having a UT, like, it's quite a big difference. Next up, we have got the Ther, and this creature really does move with just such great speed, and I guess you kind of put the Deinonychus here as well, except I've kind of refrained from putting that creature on the list because it won't be in ASA, so I'm just trying to keep all the creatures on this list like ASA creatures, and obviously the Ther definitely is. You can see there's literally ASA B-roll for it right now. This is it on the island in the Redwoods biome, if you couldn't tell already, considering that's pretty much the only map. I know Svartalfheim there, but that is a mod which you download on that. The island's the only official map, you could say, that's on ASA, and obviously using the Ther is just going to be such a great thing for the center. They can scale up any wall or vertical surface. These things move with such speed, which really does make them great traveling mounts. They have some pretty decent weight. They deal the bleed ability and also just a lot of damage on top of that as well. They're just so mobile, they deal so much damage, they can just get around everywhere. They're just great, and I think everyone personally should really get a Ther if you're playing on the center, and most maps with Thers, to be honest, in general. And also they do act as just like, in a way, they're even more tempting to tame, considering how easy they are to tame. That's what I was trying to say earlier, and I just forgot my train of thought. Either way, they're really easy to tame, very simple knockout tame. They can be trapped really easily with like no issues whatsoever. You will have just no trouble with a creature like this in terms of taming. Makes them even more enticing and even more of a reason to go out and tame one of these things for yourself. Definitely would highly recommend. In at number 5, we have got the Ther, and no, this creature isn't just here because its saddle is unlocked at level 69.
Nice.
Although, you know, that gag and that joke is always extremely great to have in these videos, and that is definitely 100% the reason why it's on this list. This is actually just a really great harvester of all things fiber, berries, wood, thatch, meat, hide, chitin, keratin, all of those things. Obviously, it's not gonna harvest any kind of rocks and all of that, and actually maybe you could get something like the mantis to use for that, although not really sure if it is on the center. I'm pretty confident that it isn't. And obviously Scorched and Ragnarok and other maps like that won't be on ASA at the time the center's out. Obviously Scorched will be out a month later, then you can just use mantises then, but either way you have the Ankies and the Dodits as well. They're not on the list, by the way, but a nice mention for them considering we are talking about gatherers. This thing, really great gatherer. Again, you could also use it for the bosses on the center, which would be extremely helpful because, you know, you get a great gathering creature, but you also get a great boss creature all in one, a great package. Although the only real downside for these things is healing them well. It requires sweet vegetable cake, and that is far more expensive than any kind of meat, and it really isn't that hard to tame any of these other carnivores which have been mentioned on the list, so you should probably do that instead, although it definitely will work out if you use those for the bosses. Next up, we got the Rex, and this is here just because it is a really great carnivore, just for the center, and obviously just for doing any of those bosses as well, the Megapithecus and the Broodmother. This will work very well in doing all of that, and it will be really great, and especially considering on ASA just how easy these things are to tame with that baby taming method. It's pretty much a no-brainer to have some Rexes in your arsenal when doing the center, and that is obviously just, it's a good thing because, you know, you get a really powerful, nice carnivore. Things like Ease and the Carcharodontaurus really aren't too necessary for the center, especially for the PvE side of things. This is a more PvE biased list, by the way, because I'm really not a PvP player. Don't know too much about that space. Have done a little bit of PvP in my time. Not the best at it, and obviously SOTF as well is a PvP thing. I've done quite a bit of that, but general official PvP, I've not really done much of that whatsoever. So, you know, obviously this is a PvE biased list, sorry. And obviously the Rex doesn't have the greatest amount of ability, but for a combat creature you really don't need that all too much, and it does pack a punch. It's got incredible amounts of health compared to some of the other carnivores which we mentioned on the list, and it deals very decent damage, and it is a very solid boss creature. You really can't go wrong if you tame something like the Rex, especially considering just how easy these things are actually to tame on the island in ASA, and obviously the tame method will be the same on the center. In at number 3, we have got the Baryonyx, and this creature just has to be here for being such a great caving creature. You're going to need to do those caves to be able to even defeat the bosses in the first place. So that is why the Barry is here. And again, probably like one of the best, most mobile small carnivores you can get in the game, and they're just so nice and so easy to use. It is really a no-brainer to have a creature like the Barry in your arsenal for doing the center. Like, just get one, get a Baryonyx, use it to do caving, use it just as a general carnivore. You can even use it to explore the ocean as well, as they're really good swimmers. You will definitely not be unhappy with your tame. You're going to be very satisfied with your tame, and you know, that's how I feel about the Barry, at least. And you know, I feel like you will too. They can also jump, you know, you pretend that it's like a Mario game, you know, and they also have the spin. So I guess now it's Mario Galaxy. They can stun creatures up to the size of a Megalodon. Again, that's going to make it really helpful for just general underwater travel. So it really is a no-brainer, in my opinion, to get yourself a Baryonyx for the center. At number 2, we have got the Megatheum, and this is just the go-to creature for defeating the Broodmother. I have to put it on this list, as the Broodmother is one of the bosses on this map. You've got the Broodmother and the Megapithecus, and this is just going to do loads of great things against that creature because of its very harsh bug against insects. And you're seeing the Broodmother spawns its little insect minions, you know, you're going to deal tons and tons of damage to it. It really is just such a huge advantage. You really can't go wrong for any Broodmother boss fight if you have Megatheums. You can just take them out so quickly like that, and they can also just gather berries as well in the general world. On top of that as well, they're just pretty decent travel mounts and just general herbivores for all of the herbivore things like berry gathering, which I've just mentioned. And, you know, maybe not the worst in terms of mobility as well, which, you know, maybe you would expect and maybe you wouldn't expect, but, you know, truly great creatures is going to do absolute wonders for defeating that Broodmother boss. So that is definitely why I would recommend you tame one. That's the main reason why it's here, but it is also just a general great creature for loads of other things as well, which you'd use a herbivore for. So again, I've said it a lot, but it is an absolute no-brainer for the center, and you really should tame a Megatheum. And in number 1, we have got the Argentavis, and this creature again for every single map, just like pretty much that obviously supports a flyer. It is like just the go-to. The RG is so good at gathering all things metal and all of that. Its saddle acts as a portable smithy. It also does have a pretty neat regen buff when killing something and then eating that dead body, and obviously they've got tons of weight reduction on all things metal, crystal and obsidian. That's why they're so great at it. Obviously they don't gather metal, but you can always just get yourself an Anki, which they can pick up, because they can pick up a very wide range of creatures, or you can use a Dodic, and then from that you can just pick up an insane range of creatures, especially with the Anki and the Dodic, because obviously they're going to be very useful for harvesting all of that metal resource, which is going to play huge benefit. And the RG is just so versatile in all of its features that it really does have to be on the list. It can even carry an extra small creature in its mouth as well, if you know that's what you want. And also, if you're wondering, after the center's been released and you're wondering why the Shartosaurus is not on the list, well, the Shartosaurus obviously isn't out yet, and I don't really have any judged opinions on it yet. But actually, comment down below, do you even think the Shartosaurus is going to be on the list? It probably will be, to be honest, considering how much of a hit the Rhinogonatha was on the island. Do you think the Shartosaurus is going to be good? And do you think it's going to be the creature for you? Do you think it deserves the number 1 spot? You know, comment that down below on all your thoughts. But anyway, that is the end of today's video, and I really hope that you all enjoyed this video, as I very much did enjoy making it. As always, comment down below what is the best art creature on the center to you, and if you didn't agree, put your 10 creatures down in the comments below, and I will see you all later.